Galactic Heroes. Part of the Fistful of Lead family, we have been remiss. I think last week we missed our Fistful of Fridays. I wanted to make up for it today, or at least keep the streak going. Well, such as it is, maybe we're restarting the streak. We're looking at a quick and easy set of wargaming rules for skirmishes in the far future. I put in a fairly substantial order some time ago and got this gratis from the good folks at Wiley Games. In other words, I'm an honest reviewer, but I'm not an impartial and unbiased one. In fact, I'm not really a reviewer. I'm more of a fan. And today we're going to go ahead and put together, we have been remiss also in that the crew of the Black Raven has been languishing in limbo as we wait for the next season. And as you know, every season we like to use a different set of rules for skirmish wargaming for this crew. In the center, for those of you that are relatively new to the channel, we've got Cobalt 15, who is the leader of a ragtag group. He was able to successfully unite the Magic Space Baby with the Magic Space Baby's family, only to find out that the Magic Space Baby did not want to be reunited and smuggled his way back aboard the Black Raven, the ship piloted by Cobalt 15. Along the way, Cobalt 15 has had a number of companions that have fallen by the wayside. He's recruited others. This is Lieutenant Dane, longtime companion, and then, of course, Poultry Joe, thank you. That's how long it's been. I can barely remember the guy's name. Today we're going to go ahead and put together this crew. We're going to translate it from the last set of rules to the current set of rules, Fistful of Lead Galactic Heroes. Now I should point out, I'm not going to be sticking to the rules as written. I always get a little nervous, but we're not going to balance, well, we're going to try to balance it as much as possible. But these guys, let me back up a step. The campaign rules in here are written to be balanced for multiplayer games. We're not doing multiplayer games. Everybody they go up against, it's the only time those guys are going to have to fight. So if we give the crew a little bit of an edge, one place we'll try to balance it in another. And if they have a little bit of edge in the campaign sense, then perhaps we can be forgiven. Now, I should also point out, this is the first edition of Galactic Heroes. Wiley Games has a second edition. This book is... Let's take a look, and I can't show you everything because, you know, copyright reasons, but we're up to basically about 53 pages. The second edition is a perfect bound book, and it has almost twice as much content, including vehicle rules, a number of additional skills and traits, I guess they call them, and it includes the Codex Galactica, another title we're not going to look at in too much depth, but I did want to show you that if you don't want to sit down and come up with your own, if you don't have your own alien, properties, of course, I've got my Chicken Man. We'll have to figure out what his traits are. But if you just want to have, some kind of like Hollywood intellectual property that you've already got the figures for and you're jonesing to play it, it's probably kind of in here. If we take a look real quick, you've got things like Federated Space. You can guess what that is. This is all legally allowable versions, rebel scum, right? Remember those terrorists that blew up a Star of Death? It's all right here for you, including the usual cast. You know who they are. And then, of course, bounty hunters and villains. You can guess who these guys are. Grub of the Gut. If you don't know who that is, you might be watching the wrong video. This is one I really wanted to show you because it's really clever. The interdimensional time-traveling scientist. And one of the enemies that they stat up here for you is something called the Crying Statue, which has a special rule right here that you can't see because the light's a little bit wonky. We'll zoom in on it. Crying statues cannot move if an enemy has a line of sight to them. Otherwise, they must pass. They're soulless infiltrators. This is genius. It's so brilliant. Full of good stuff like that. In fact, if you would like to play in a future that is not just grim, that is not just dark, but is grim and dark, they've got stuff in there. Gubbins. You probably have figures for this dark and grim future. The Alderon. Alderen. Yeah. Can't call them something that's copyrighted. Gubbins. Savage Orcs. Robot skeletons. And then what else we got? One last... Oh, that's all of them. Wow. Colonial Marines. They've probably got Xenos in there too, but we're not going to be using that today. I just want to leave through and show it to you. So if you go on and you say, wow, man, it's the Galactic Heroes second version is like $40. I'm not paying $40. It's almost $1 a page. It's not. You're getting a lot more stuff. Okay? Settle down. Eesh. We'll turn on the bright lights for this one. And now, as you know, if you've watched any of the videos, everybody rolls a D10 for everything unless extra traits come in. So the first person we're going to do is this guy right here. That's going to be our leader. He is Cobalt 15. And As you will recall, he was a warbot that grew a conscience. He decided he wanted to be a real boy. So the first thing we have to do is, well, first of all, he's the owner of the ship. So we are going to give him the leader trait. And normally when you're putting together a warband, the balancing act is 5 figures, 1 leader, 1 second, and then 3 kind of mooks. Like I said, we're not gonna do that for these guys. Instead, what we will do is we will give him, our boss man is going to be a leader. And that leadership trait means it's +1 to recovery rolls for all of your allies that are within 12 inches. Solus is a great one. Because he is a robot, he is never shaken. He can't take shaken results. But he is +1 when shot at. In other words, if you're trying to shoot the guy, he's got a terrible dodge. All right, so there is your robot issues. The other thing we can do is we can give him, now remember that he's got, his weapons are built in. He's got 2 like wrist rocket kind of blasters. So for that, we're going to give him energy blast. And what this does is it gives him he can shoot out of his hands. It's a ranged attack at 6 inches and 12 inches, and he does not go out of ammo. However, if you roll a 1, you have to rest instead. So the next turn, he has to basically, shut down, recharge his solar batteries. Then the other question is, what do we want to give him in terms of, should we make him armored? It'll slow him by 1 inch. He'll only move, and I think that's probably pretty good. We're going to give him armored, which is -1 inch to move. And I think, we probably should have made him a veteran too. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to give him a veteran. So he's got a total of 5. He's rolling D12s on everything. And then this armored, he's -1 to move, but he's -1 melee and -1 on wound rolls. -1 to hit in melee. And he's at -1 on wounds. And that's it. So those are the 5 things we have to remember. His move is 5 inches, and he rolls D12s. You want to give your bossman that D12. Now, this is a good opportunity to show you. Now, I do favor the notepad and paper. If I can't just scribble out the things on notepad and paper, then I don't know, man. You got too much stuff going on in your rules. However, we do live in a time where technology is great, and you would be remiss designing games if you did not include, where is it? There we go. This is his recommendation for character sheets. Nice and easy, right? Shooting D2, some of the traits can give you a different dice in shoot and close combat. We'll see that in a little bit. Shoot, close combat, and then here's a little picture, a little room for you to draw your picture, or if you want to scan this and dump it into a file. I mean, I may wind up doing that just because it looks so good. List traits, weapons, and name, of course. Well, we've done all that here. So the Galactic Heroes does include that. And if you go to wiley-games.com, you can download the PDF that has those as well. Moving on, we should probably do the Magic Space Baby next. And the Magic Space Baby hasn't done a whole lot except run around and be a liability lately. But now we have an opportunity. The idea behind him, just so you know, the idea behind him was to do a surprise. Oh, he's a hugely powerful psyker. But he was just waiting for the right moment. Well, the right moment never came, and I think the right moment is now, because Galactic Heroes, taking its inspiration from those grand old pulp adventures, does include what they call psionics and powers. Call it what you want. First thing we need to understand is that that's going to be one of the traits that he has. And in order to afford that, we're going to give him the trait of small, which is an odd trait. And that's one of the reasons I don't worry too much about balancing out all these traits, because the way you assign traits, some of these traits are more powerful than others, and we don't care. Okay. In some cases, I think picking a trait means you get 2 traits. We don't care about that, because small has both some bonuses and some bad things going on. He is -1 when shot at, right? He's very tiny. But he only has 2 wounds, and he is at -1 to wound rolls in combat. In other words, if he hits you in melee, you get... Well, how does this work? He's at -1 to wound rolls you deliver in combat. So the guy that makes the wound roll is going to have a -1 to his wound roll. And if we look at that wound chart here real quick, right, higher is worse. So if the Magic Space Baby, reaches up and punches you in the forks, then, and I say forks because there could be aliens, right? They could have 2, 3, or even 4 forks to get kicked in. On a roll of 0 or less, basically, he's only going to put somebody out of action on a roll of 10 because you got that -1, right? He's a weakling. He's a scrawny little weakling. But to make up for that, he has real ultimate cosmic power in the form of psionics. And to keep things relatively balanced and fit in with our concept of what this character is going to do, we are only going to give him a couple of different powers. One of the powers is deflect. And one of the things I want to do is I want to make sure that he's a magic space baby, right? He doesn't want to go around killing anybody. So deflect is a fun one because when shot at, he can make a reaction, and on a 5-up, that bolt hits the shooter. But the shooter has to be within 12 inches. Okay, it's a reaction, does not cause a read. There you go. So that's a defensive power. We're also going to give him a shield, which is a defensive power, which has a 3-inch diameter centered on him, and it counts as hard cover. So anybody within that 3 inches is going to be considered in hard cover. And then we're also going to do a power called push, which has a 3-inch diameter and a 12-inch range. And I'm taking these straight from the rule book. I'm not giving you all of them. I just want to give you an idea of some of the things you can do. 3-inch range up to 12 inches away. Everybody, 12-inch range. And then everybody under that has to make a 5-up. Let's see, roll the hit. On a 5-up, they receive a shock and are pushed back 6 inches. Wow. So on a 5-up, you get shocked and moved 6 inches back. Oh, so that could technically be used as a pull as well. If you drop, so here we go, Magic Space Baby. You are going to use that on Chicken Joe. If you put the center here, then it's going to push Chicken Joe that direction. So you got to be a little bit careful where you put that, because you may be in a situation where you want to catch both of these guys and you want to put it here. You're going to push Chicken Joe closer to you. So you might want to drop it there to keep him at bay, if you will. That's pretty good for that character. He is small, and then do we make him a healer? I don't think we do. I am going to do telekinesis, though. That's a really complicated one. You know what that is. You've seen the movies. You know how telekinesis works. I'm just going to say see page 46. There's a lot of different stuff that goes into that. And that's good. I think we're great, right? He's small, and he's got these powers. By and large, he doesn't attack you unless you attack him. I'm inclined to give him heal, except I don't want to give him all of the powers, and I really think that kind of heal bot, that support package, it truly belongs to another character. We may need to recruit one of those. We have now done our boss man and our sidekick. We've got 2 others, and despite the fact that Chicken Joe here, I'll put the picture up there actually so you can see him a little bit better. Chicken Joe is going to be, well, you know what? Lieutenant Dane outranks him. So now we got to look at Lieutenant Dane. And remember, Lieutenant Dane, despite the fact, so here's our picture of Lieutenant. I keep bringing it up where it's out of focus. Despite the fact that Lieutenant Dane here is not carrying a long-range weapon, he has always been our shooter. And Chicken Joe has always been our long-range guy. Let's go ahead and reverse that so that our figures match the abilities that we've got. We're going to make Lieutenant Dane our tough melee specialist. You know, the other thing we could do for Magic Space Baby is give him D8s and everything. The other thing is, the Magic Space Baby, because he follows light, he gets an extra action when on a red card. So half the time, he basically gets 2.5 because he's an adept. He's got, you know what I'm talking about? We're going to be careful, right? Which forces he uses. Well, we're talking about Lieutenant Dane, our close combat specialist. We're going to give him Brawler. He rerolls his close combat die if he wants to. He is solid, so he's never pushed back. Normally in this game, if 2 guys are fighting, and Lieutenant Dane wins the combat, he has the option, let me back up. If Poultry Joe wins the combat, he can do nothing. He can push Dane back, or he can trade places. Because Dane is solid now, if Poultry Joe wins that combat, Lieutenant Dane doesn't move. That's a great one for melee fighters because it means it limits the options of your opponent. He's also a street fighter, so if Poultry Joe and Cobalt 15 outnumbered him, he would suffer no negative modifiers for being outnumbered. He don't care. He'll take on all comers. He's a bit of an angry fella. He used to be crazy angry, but we bought that penalty off through experience points. And that's it. We'll get to equipment in a second. The last guy we got to do is Poultry Joe. And as I said, now this will be the fun one because Poultry Joe is an alien. So we get to pick some alien traits as well. But as I said, he is going to be our shooty McShoot face, meaning we are absolutely going to want to give him at least 1 and maybe 2 shooter skills. We are going to start off, since he's a sniper, by giving him the sniper skill. So he re-rolls his shoot rolls. Shoots, re-rolls, shoots. We're also going to give him Eagle Eye, except it's Chicken Eye, right? Because he's Poultry Joe, which means his short range of his weapon is at plus 4 inches. I think that's what it is. Oh, the short range is plus 2, and long range is at plus 4. So he can shoot even further. And then, I don't know if you know this or not, but chickens have got wings. That being the case, we have to give him a flight power. And for that, Flyer is the order of the day, and in Galactic Heroes terms, that means he can move over terrain at no cost, and he can move to cover vertical heights. So I'm just going to write down, duh. We all know what flyers do, and that's it. So Poultry Joe doesn't have as many traits. What we may do with these two guys could be, or what I may do for Lieutenant Dane, because he's got a lot more experience or renown in the vernacular of Galactic Heroes, we may give him a little bit of extra equipment. So let's take a look at these equipment charts right here. And as usual, there is a lovely chart. We like charts. Of all of the, just a quick sneak peek at all of the weapons that are available. We need to figure that out. Now, Cobalt, remember, he's got his Energy Blast, and our Psyker is weaponless. So the only two guys that we need to worry about weapons for are our Shooter and our Meleeist. And this is real easy. Our Sniper is going to have a sniper rifle, which you have to be a specialist. So technically, we could give a skill down here. You're a specialist, Joe. Way to go. Lieutenant Dane is just going to have an auto pistol. And we should write down a couple of things, because the sniper rifle normally has a range of 16 and 32 inches, but because we gave him the Chicken Eye, he's going to be shooting at short range on 18 inches and long range on a 36-inch, which is kind of useless on my table, to be honest with you, because my table's only 30 inches across. But hey, it's got unlimited range, which not everybody does. In fact, this auto pistol, remember, Cobalt, you know, I think maybe Cobalt should be treated as never unarmed, because he's got one fist of iron and another fist of iron. Or it's one fist of steel and another fist of steel. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In fact, I'm just going to write that down, because he doesn't have any... Never disarmed. He's an unarmed. When he's fighting unarmed, it doesn't matter. The auto pistol has a range of 6 inches and 12 inches. So again, Lieutenant Dane is going to have to really get close first. And then we might as well give him, what do we got for, I mean, are we going to give him a sword? Does he have a sword? No, we're just going to, he's fine. That's it. So we're pretty much done. The only other thing I think we may want to do is give Lieutenant Dane some armor. There is a lot of equipment in here. Grenades, laser pistols, laser rifles. Some of these things are inaccurate, so you're at -1 when you're shooting, but you're going to be at +1 to wound. We're not going to go with that. We're just going to stick with sniper rifle, which doesn't really, aside from its crazy long range, it doesn't have a whole lot of special abilities. Gear, you get combat drugs, comms jammer, exoskeletons, extra ammo. Here we go, heavy armor. Well, I don't know if we need heavy armor. -1 to hit in combat, -2 to rolls, but it's heavy armor, right? Oh, that's a trait in this one. So one of the things to be aware of is that if you're playing... Okay, so if you're playing the fantasy version of Fistful of Lead, Mazes and Monsters, or Might and Melee, you make a roll to hit, and then a roll to wound, and then a roll to save. In this, you have an armored trait, and we're just not going to go with that with any of these guys. Maybe some of our opponents will. A couple of other features that they've got in here are, if you want to go up against big, scary monsters, they do have alien monster traits, such as Mesmerize, right? When any action, as an action, the monster may use this ability on any enemy within 12 inches. It's induced similar to close combat make a close combat roll, and if the victim rolls higher, nothing happens. Oh, and then there's a whole... I picked a really complicated one, didn't I? If the monster wins that melee, then you check the difference. And on a 1 through 3, the victim is shocked. He shrugs off the effect, but he gets a shock marker. If the difference is higher than 3, then the victim is now helpless and has to be freed before he can act again. And if it's really high, the victim is under the monster's will and can be activated next turn, deal an extra card for the monster player. Huh. How about that? And then that's also your -1 if you're shocked. So some really fun little special abilities. I think we're going to have a good time with this game, and that's all it took. So here we are in about a 20-minute video walking through. Everything is already ready to go. I may add a few more wrinkles to this, and I need to make up a roster for somebody for these guys to go up against. Galactic Heroes does include a couple of scenarios, taking down the force field, which I think I saw that in a movie once. What else we got here? We got prepare to repel borders. So if you have a little spaceship model, then you've got people jumping on, and so some fun little deployment. We love deployment that goes beyond one team on the north, one team on the south. Repel borders, probably going to do that. We've also got a hive of scum and villainy, which is, let's see, smugglers have stolen a shipment. They plan to sell it. Things go smoothly. They're unaware of the... So basically it's a... what's our victory rules here? Oh, there's Sandstorm. That'd be good. It's a 3-party deal. Smugglers, pirates, and you get an exchange done, the pirates and the rebels. And then if you leave, with the ill-gotten gains, you win. So that's it. Really good. If you've already played Fistful of Lead, pick this up. It's a good addition to your repertoire. One of my concerns with Fistful of Lead has proven baseless. And that is that I'm a firm believer that the rules that you use for your miniature war game should capture the flavor of the era that you're trying to reproduce. The core skeleton of Fistful of Lead is, like we said, roll to hit, roll to wound, roll to save. Use a deck of cards to handle initiative, and special cards give you special abilities, so you got to be judicious with which card activates which of your dudes. That's about it. It's that simple. By adding in period-specific flavor rules, hey, armored heroes, we pay a lot of attention. We add in an additional little subsystem for making save rolls every time somebody gets damaged. We're not dealing with heavily armored guys here. We're in the far future where armor, it might save a limb, but it's still going to put you out of the fight. So we just have a very simple rule for that. We've got longer range weapons that are a lot more deadly, but require more resources to use. Instead of having a quiver full of 30 arrows, you're only going to have a few minutes worth of ammo for any given firefight. Or you're going to be weighed down with a lot of extra ammo. So those little wrinkles that you find in Fistful of Lead, period-specific titles, really go a long ways towards fleshing out that universal mechanic. And I think, ultimately, in the final analysis, if you want to have a universal mechanic that you bolt on period-specific flavors to, you need to make that core mechanic as simple as possible. You need to strip out as much of the flavor as possible so that then you can start adding sprinkles or chocolate syrup or cherry on top. Then you can really start adding to it. And that's what Fistful of Lead does right. Next week, we'll put together a little mini adventure, as I've discussed previously, a full 5-on-5. This is, even with these 4, I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've got like 18 different special traits that I have to remember in addition to the dice and the movement. That's a lot that's enough to keep the noggin jogging as you're playing and strategizing against another player. To have to double this up, and you're doing the strategy for both sides, it's a little bit much. They do have solo rules on wiley-games.com. I need to download those. They warn it's not play tested. I don't know how well they work. So for now, what I think I'll do is I'll probably do a little mini adventure with our leader and our Magic Space Baby. Maybe we'll take a look at Starport Moai, right, Astra Tortuga, and just have them do a light encounter with a couple of space pirates, because I have some figures I haven't used, which always hangs over my head like a weight. Got to get them figures on the table, guys. This is wargaming is a verb. Wargaming is a verb. It's a thing you do. Not a collector. Collecting is one aspect of the hobby. If it's the only thing you're doing, you're not a wargamer. You're a collector. I'm a wargamer. Got to use that stuff. So look for those next week as these figures, which this was a hand sculpt by Superfan Dartmart. This comes from Coruscant Miniatures. This also comes from Coruscant Miniatures. And I believe Poultry Joe is an alien that comes from Alternative Armies. The Space Pirates that I've got lined up are from Irregular Miniatures. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Look for that next week. Till then, I'm praying for you.